All right, students, this is actually not necessarily for you guys, but more for your parents. This was the back to school night presentation. I ran out of time with most of the classes. There were your parents that came by, so I figured I would go through the video or go through my presentation using a video so that they kind of can gloss over stuff that they might have missed, okay? So anyway, hi parents, thank you guys for coming, or if you couldn't make it, I'm sorry, but hopefully you don't miss out on anything because here's your back to school night video. Sort of the stuff that I went over with my students, mostly here, we got a contact information, so loop mailing me or emailing me is probably the two best ways of getting a hold of me. If you need to give me a call or something, you can, but chances are if I'm at home, then I get an email, voicemail, and then I have to email you back anyway or something like that. So a little bit complicated. Anyway, if we kind of look through quick 6 slides that we got going on. First slide right here, as I mentioned, this is sort of what your students see every single day that they come into the classroom. So I'll give you a quick breakdown. Normally right here, instead of it saying science, there's some kind of instructions. Here's the one from today if you want to take a look. Might as well make it easier. Right, so it says glue the following into your notebook, and then they got some work to do. Okay, so what's really nice here, they know exactly what they're supposed to be doing as the bell rings or before the bell rings if they want to get a jump start on it. But hopefully you don't lose any class time because, the instructions are right there. Other than that, something that I've been drawing to their attention is this piece that says EO. So this is called an essential outcome. It's what they're supposed to know by the time they leave class. So by the time you're done watching this video, you should be able to assist your child in maintaining a successful science routine. Okay, for them today it was about observation versus inference, and then materials needed from you as parents, just to trust that, I have your students' best interest in mind. Normally for them, it's going to say writing utensil notebook every day. These two things should be out all the time whenever they come to class. Okay, let's just go through some of these slides. Boom, these are the 4 most important things that your kids are going to need to know in order to be successful in here, right? So the first thing we have is a school loop calendar. Let's go ahead and pull that up. I'm going to pause the video real fast. All right, sorry about that. I didn't have my school loop up yet. So this is my school loop calendar. Your students might look a little bit different. Mine has a lot of stuff from all other teachers. Your students should only have stuff that's pertinent to them, their classes, what gets published by maybe the school or something like that. What I'm most interested in right now is the stuff that's in red where it says all the science agendas. So every single day I upload a science agenda. That is where they can see what kind of work they missed. That's also where they can see what their homework is and all that stuff. Okay, so let's just go ahead and click on one of them. So this is today's science agenda. And you'll see just like a general outline of the stuff that we did. Quick note, we have homework tonight, so check out the slides if you want to see tonight's homework. And then I attach the actual slides, right? So this should look familiar, right? The exact thing that I just showed you a second ago. So they can go through it if they missed anything. Great if they were absent, but there's their homework also. And, just if they need that as a resource, I always make it available. Okay, so now let's go back to here. Other than that, I do maintain a science website here on School Loop, so I'll click my website. There are a whole bunch of avenues that I've shown the students on how to access the science website. They don't have that My Website button. For the most part, anywhere on School Loop, if you ever see my name as a link, click on it and you'll see it. Okay, so we're going to click on the thing here that says Science 7 site and a whole bunch of information. So important stuff for them to be aware of. We have a table of contents. We have the YouTube channel. We have the leaderboard for this little XP game we're going to play throughout the year. They can get little rewards. So there's a button that says item shop. They can get little rewards for gaining XP, pretty much turning in work on time, participating in class, doing what the sub asks if there's a sub, just general good character traits that I see throughout the year. We'll give them some experience points that they can trade in for various things to help them maybe on the test, like a unit assessment or something, or just, to make class a little bit more fun for them. Okay. Other than that, I just added this, still didn't show the other students this yet, but I'm sort of compiling what we did each week so that they can kind of get an idea of, if there's anything that they missed, anything that they need to do some extra work or studying on. Okay. If we scroll down, here's another calendar, so you'll see all those science agendas. So this, to me, I like it. It only shows my science class, so it's just easier if they need to just identify specifically what they need to do in science. I'm maintaining a word wall, which I told them I'm never really going to mention the word wall, but just for them, if they're like, I don't know if I really know what's going on in class, they can look here and kind of gauge if they're picking up on the vocab and the specific like content of the class. So that's the first week. Second week, we only really talked about claim evidence reasoning, so just 3 words. And if they can handle that, great. Okay, and then that was the course policy. So parents, if you ever want to look at this, you're wondering how the class functions, feel free to look at that. But they did have a quiz on it and all that good stuff. So we're kind of moving on from there already. Okay, so if we look at this, the next part is Science Notebook and then YouTube channel. So let's come back here and we'll show you those things. Okay, first off, it says table of contents there. There's also a link hanging out hiding right there. If we click on it, it'll take you to something that looks like this. So this is everything that should be in their notebook right now. Little note about the stuff that's in red, but you can ask your kids, hey, turn to page whatever here, and they should be able to show it to you. Okay, this is really important just because I like to refer to like past pages, the way this integrated science model works. A lot of stuff we come back to, add more detail and all that good stuff. It would be better for me to be able to say like, hey, open up your notebooks to page 38 so that we can look at whatever, instead of me saying like, hey, find that graphic organizer on phase change, and then they have to flip through their notebook and find it. It just saves time if we're all on the same page number. And I always very clearly articulate what page number their stuff should be on. As you can see, here's their homework right there. So page 13 in the notebook. This goes on page 12 in the notebook. Okay, so as we go along, I always tell them exactly what's supposed to be in there. All right, then next, the YouTube channel. Let's go ahead and find a link for that. Right here, if we go to the YouTube channel, you're gonna see some videos. Okay, so I only have 3 so far, so these are the notes that are homework, a little walkthrough in the course policy, how to use Flipgrid, all this good stuff. We're gonna have homework help on there as well, and then I mentioned one of the important things for a lot of students in my class is getting lab work done. So if you're absent, you can see a video on any lab that we do. I run through it myself, narrate some expected results, and just things that I've noticed that maybe students struggled on as they were doing the lab. Okay, so maybe that helps. Some students, they think their lab was a failure, so I go ahead and go through the lab so they can see what the expected results again were, so that they can see if they did it right or not. They can identify where their mistakes were, hopefully correct them on the next lab. Okay, so yeah, a couple different things that we do for the YouTube channel: review pieces, homework help, and maybe most importantly, those lab walkthroughs. Okay, a little bit about me. I'll just gloss through this one real quick since I care more about the grit of the class. But I've been teaching at Windermere for about 5 years now. I went to UC Davis, got my degree in animal science. Thought I was going to be a veterinarian. Changed my mind, became a teacher, and definitely don't regret the decision. I like the mentorship piece of teaching. That was sort of my big thing. I really like helping people grow for the most part. So I like that part, grow academically and just as a person. Okay, I live here in San Ramon, so if you ever see me out, soccer practice with the kids, basketball practice, shopping at Target, whatever, feel free to say hi, we can chat. If you have any concerns about your kid, I'm not someone that's going to be like, send me an email, we'll talk about it later, you know what I mean? I'll always stop and chat, not a big deal. And today officially actually starts this beginning of my fall semester back doing my doctorate in educational technology, so hopefully I'll be Dr. 2 in a couple years, but we've been integrating some good technology pieces into the classroom, and I think it'll be good for us, especially because our textbook, which I'll talk about in a minute, is going to be completely online this year, similar to what it was last year. Okay, so here's my major teaching, beliefs and philosophies. It says I believe that all students can be successful at science. It takes longer for some people than others, so I do quiz retakes. The goal there is do retakes on quizzes, try to master them so that they're ready for the major unit tests. We don't do retakes on the unit test. It's just very time consuming and time intensive to do that. But I try to do enough review retakes on quizzes that hopefully they're at that mastery point by the time the unit test comes up, okay? And then of course, kind of logically, those retakes would end by the time the unit test comes because we don't really revisit the material after the end of the unit test, okay? Mostly having been like a high school teacher for so long, I saw students that just fell out of love with science. A lot of kids in elementary love it because there's so much like, wonder and amazement and for some reason it gets just lectured out of them, I guess, by middle school. So I'd like to kind of keep that through high school, let them understand that, science is fun, science can be entertaining. Science is all around them. Anything can be answered through science, and that's sort of the approach that I take. Right? So how do I do that? I kind of just learned about this term in one of my summer doctorate programs. I always called it like rapport. Like I want to build rapport with my students. I want to make these foster connections, and I never really understood the depth and complexity of doing that. So what I found was that there's this concept called presence, and it's sort of broken down into 3 parts. And I'll give you the quick background, even though I swear this could probably be like a whole semester-long course on just what presence is. Okay, so the first one to me is teacher presence. I try to maintain, as the teacher in the room, a certain feel and atmosphere that make the kids feel comfortable, but at the same time also know what the expectations are. So it's kind of like this idea that I used to say, like fun, but with expectations. I'll smile, but I'll still expect work from you. Okay, so, that's why I like developing routines, so the students always know exactly. Sorry, got a little bit louder. So the students know exactly what it is that's expected of them every single day. I like to foster that positive teacher-student connection just because I feel like it does allow them to take risks in class and ask questions and be inquisitive and not worry about like, on my first try, am I going to get this 100% right? Like that's not the big deal, especially in science. Like think about how many times a scientist fails or, has to redo, tweak, make adjustments to an experiment before they actually come to an actual major finding. It's kind of the idea there. I also believe in social presence, so the students need to be able to work well in groups. The way the next generation science standards are set up, like developing and fostering and creating a community of inquiry where our students' ideas are respected and accepted by other students, and maybe even if they're wrong, kind of talked through and explained why maybe there's a deficiency there. I think that's really important. So we work on a lot of group work in our class, interpersonal skills. I think that's a big part of science. And then the last part, which is funny that it's last to me, is cognitive presence. I don't think you can develop good cognitive skills without these first 2. So from communication with me, understanding what my expectations are, understanding the way my class is structured, or from communication with students, understanding that maybe a student's wrong idea or idea missing some details needs to be refined and maybe communicating that appropriately, or for the student whose information needs to be refined, understanding that criticism can be constructive is necessary to allow that cognitive piece to be created. They can't really understand or maybe develop deep connections with their misunderstandings without those communicative pieces. So that's sort of where I'm at with that. Okay, my main goal: if students are open-minded, they continue a positive outlook and build on very basic science skills, by the end of 7th grade, moving into 8th, thus moving into high school, I think we're on, a pretty good track. Okay, so this is some next generation science stuff, and I feel like this really does connect with that social presence piece. Most of our teaching unit concepts are outlined through this. So traditionally, like old school science before next generation science standards, it was almost always the explain piece, and it was like teacher explain, teacher explain, teacher explain. If you look at the explain here, now it even says students create their explanations. So this lends really heavily and nicely toward that student present piece, the social presence piece. It lends towards that teacher presence piece. So, for me as the teacher, I try to make anything that we do relevant and interesting to my students. That's why I come up with a lot of weird, odd examples. It just kind of captivates and catches their attention a little bit better. I want them to kind of look into what they don't understand, explore, and try to make explanations from it. That's where that social presence of giving constructive criticism will come into play, where they need to understand where their misconceptions and preconceptions are before we can actually sort of refine it all. Okay, this elaborating is, to me, more or less that refining process. Ultimately, it always, of course, has to end in the test, the quiz, the evaluation, the assessment, whatever we want to call it. Okay, so it's a shift. Instead of it just being straight drill, fact, 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 teacher explain, teacher explain, teacher explain. Now we have this process where we want students to understand why and where the relevance for the science is coming from, moving into them developing their own explanations, and then ultimately them being able to show me how their understanding has changed and what it is that they know about whatever the science content is. Okay, so a little bit different, a little bit different. Okay, so how are we going to foster this? So, as you all probably well know, we don't have a science textbook that really fits the next generation science standards. We spent the last couple of years using um, a physical science, life science, earth science book, which is weird because middle school is now an integrated science model. So these 3 textbooks that are like separate, they don't even work at this point. Okay, so what we're going to work on starting Tuesday, I think it's September 3rd, so the day after Labor Day, we're going to be working on this thing called STEM scopes. I'll have a tutorial on how to walk them through their STEM scopes. It's a little bit different than the online material that they worked on last year. But we're going to do STEM scopes. I'm actively trying to figure out how I'm going to integrate that within all the school loop pieces. I think Google Classroom is going to have to play a role here. So again, I'll walk students through Google Classroom, but a lot of this early setup stuff has to happen. I just got trained on this a week ago, not even a week ago, last week, late at the end on back to school night, actual night. So we got to work through all these kinks, you know, kind of last minute-ish, but we'll get there. Okay, so we're going to work on that through early October. I like the material. I think it's more organized than the stuff last year, the HMH and McGraw-Hill, if you all are familiar with that. But then October, November, we're going to work on Discovery Education, which is another pilot or program that the district is considering implementing by the end, mid-November-ish. All the science teachers are going to kind of give their input on which of these 4 they most prefer. Okay, so that's sort of where we're going. Once we make a decision on there, the district will choose, using our input and, you know, probably some behind the scenes district-y stuff, what we're going to adopt beginning for semester 2. Okay, so hopefully by second semester of this year, we'll have like an actual firm, solid science curriculum. Okay. If there are any other questions, if there's anything that's unclear, please ask me. You can check out School Loop. The printer right there is making a whole bunch of noise, I'm sorry. And then more tutorials on anything that I think might be confusing will be coming down the way. Okay, thank you guys for coming to Back to School Night if you were able to. If not, hopefully this video was useful. If you are a student, now you know all of the behind the scenes stuff that I told your parents, so yay for that. Okay, take care, bye.